All right, call this Board of Directors meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. This board has a land acknowledgement and anti-racism statement that we've written in support. It's posted on the board's website. Roll call. I think we have everybody here except for Kanu at the moment, but I have not heard from her. All right, moving to adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
I have a question. So on the okay, go ahead. Okay, so on the consent agenda, it says approval of minutes for 4/14. What we need to do is remove the consent agenda, and then we need to just add like approval of the 3/30/2022 minutes, the amended minutes to the board agenda. Sorry about that. I think that goes to item, where does that go? 11E? Or no, it would go continuing business, right? I don't know where it goes.
Would it be
11E?
Okay.
Yes.
All
right. I guess second those amendments.
Second. Oh, I motioned it. Never mind.
All those in favor of the amended amendments? All right. Do we have a motion to adopt the amended agenda then?
Motion to adopt the amended agenda.
Second.
And
All
then
those in favor?
There's a panelist inquiring about sound problems. I don't know if John's available to see if there's audio issues. I can hear fine, but one of our panelists is inquiring about audio.
Yeah, I can't see anything in particular wrong, out of place with audio.
Okay, thanks, John.
Yeah, Rob, maybe try leaving and rejoining and see if that fixes things for you.
All right, moving on to announcements then. Do we have any announcements?
You want to take that, Rich?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So you guys hear me? So just to let everybody know that Clean Green is a go for Saturday, 09 to 4 p.m. We will have staff on site to make sure that everybody has an opportunity during that time from 9 to 4 to bring down their green waste and deposit it at the site.
And that site is at the Gate 5 overflow parking across from Gate 5 on Lake Louise Road.
That is correct.
Any other announcements?
And I would like to give a gentle reminder to Rich and Dan to, double check on when we can do Firewise. I know we've got to fulfill some things first, but I just want to keep that in your noggins.
Yeah, and I've reached out to the South Lake Walk and Water District, and so I'll be meeting with their leadership in the near future and talking with them about it as well.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, Firewise is the program where we pick up the our maintenance staff goes around and sometimes an outside crew goes around and picks up the woody debris that people pick up out of their yard to keep out of the culverts, and also protect their homes from dry kindling during the summer. So that's part of our budget Firewise program. So that'll happen later in the summer.
Pam?
Yeah, please address that as dead debris and fuel, because when the one summer I did that with Sudden Valley, there was people that decided to do routine maintenance and put out green stuff, and we had to actually leave that because it was all focused, Firewise was focused on dead fuel for fires. And so we're cleaning that out. So always be sure and tell everybody that it's not the green stuff. It's the dead stuff, and get it out there, and then it'll be cleaned up.
Any other announcements? All right, move to property owner comments.
All right, we've got 19 people with us. There is a question that came up in chat there as well. I'm not sure if there's a board member that wishes to respond to that, but we do have a hand raised at this point. Actually, same resident. I'll go ahead and bring you on over here. Mitch, go ahead and unmute whenever you're ready.
Go. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you great.
Well, thank you very much. Well, directors, good evening. AJ, I'd like to have a good conversation and a very friendly conversation about a very important topic that I think concerns us both. And that's Gate 28 and Gate 5 and the access to Gate 28 and Gate 5 and the small bridge that is right outside of Southern Court on the road between Gate 5 to the exit of Gate 28. We all know that the road is shut down. Mother Nature was not a friend to us, and it's not a stable road, and it has its problems. Well, I believe that there's an opportunity here for us to consider, and it was discussed back in 2015 and 2016, and that's using Area Y, which is adjacent to Southern Court. Area Y is approximately a 40-acre tract of land that is not in the trust account. It can be sold, it can be operated, it can be modified, it can be developed. I'd like to propose that the board consider that the development of Area Y by a developer through a request for proposal, that a developer do what they might want to do in Area Y, but the payment to Sudden Valley should be that the developer gives Sudden Valley a new road from Gate 5 and Southern Court out to Lake Whatcom Boulevard. That's the payment. That's what they would have to give us. It's an assets for value exchange, and it solves our problem. And what most people probably don't know is that there's a small bridge right outside of Southern Court on the road between Gate 5 and Lake Whatcom Boulevard. And technically, I'll just say the bridge is called rickety and sucky. It's just not a stable little bridge. And so that road, Gate 5
So Mitch, why don't I save you a little time?
Allow me.
We're going to be discussing this next Wednesday. It's going to be a special board meeting regarding Southern Court and our bridges, our real bridges and not the culverts. And so I'm just saying, why don't you reserve that for that meeting, because the board can't discuss that tonight.
Association is actually a paramount description of good board governance. Thank you. So to continue, that bridge needs to be replaced. Now, a person in Gate 5 trying to escape a fire using the Gate 28 access would need that bridge to be in good shape, and it's pretty rickety. A contractor, a developer, given Area Y, we would leverage that to give us the cash to go, well, we wouldn't even take the cash. They go build a new road for Gate 28 residents and Gate 5. It's assets for value contracting. I'd like the board to consider that as an option, AJ. It's a solid contracting strategy. Now, what's really cool about that is the bridge needs to be replaced. And along with that discussion would be the same issue with Western Lane. We live in a very beautiful area. We all agree that's why we bought here. And if we don't replace the bridge on Western, residents in gates 3, 9, and 13, should they need to exit in an emergency, and if that bridge fails, would find themselves in the same condition that residents of Paradise, California found themselves in. It was for that reason that in 2016, the board put in a plan for a transfer fee. Now, I understand and accept that that transfer fee is not something that this board supports, and I'm okay with that. It was our solution at the time to deal with what we knew was a very expensive problem that had to be addressed. And that was our way to do it. So I'm going to believe, and I have said this on social media, this board must have a plan. And giving the benefit of the doubt that there is a plan, somehow we need to make sure that that bridge, which was estimated in 2013 at $900,000, and a hermit would know that between 2013 and 2022, costs have gone through the roof. So perhaps we should maybe have a good discussion before we move forward and eliminate the capability that we have to address these very real and very significant issues. I bring this to you in earnest. I bring this to you as a technical challenge. Certainly the Area Y issue can be leveraged to solve our Gate 28 and save our own cash and even increase our income. Being the board, you would have the right in the RFP to specify what the CC&Rs would be for the developer, whether you want them to be part or parcel or not, whatever. But we have ways to solve the problem, but the transfer fee was put in place to really address what we knew technically that engineers of high quality knew were real issues that had to be addressed. And the only way we could see them was the transfer fee. All right, listen, you're the board. You're elected by a big majority. They've given you this power. I ask you to please consider, if you don't want to use the transfer fee money, you'd have to pay out $1.425 million of our capital money. How are we going to address these other issues? Forgetting politics, putting everything else aside, I seriously ask you as governance to please take a second pause and consider these issues. Thank you, AJ, for letting me have my talk. Thank you, board.
Thank you. I will say that neither one of those are actually bridges, though. They're both culverts, what you're talking about.
All right.
Can I talk?
Right, Josh?
Can you guys hear me? Sorry, I got to talk in the mic. Mitch, first of all, it's good to hear from you. I haven't heard from you in like 2 years or something. Have you foreseen any other options of what can happen with that land versus going to development?
Am I still live on voice?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay, Josh, thank you very much for the welcoming comment. So Area Y is currently zoned as R5. There are documentation, I found them on the web today. We could put a condo in that area, condominium association. Conversely, you could probably take the 40 acres and build 8 5-acre parcels, but you know, that's not consistent with the rest of the attitude and the relationship and our culture in Sudden Valley having 5-acre parcels. So a condo probably is the best suite of the 40-acre parcel. It is buildable, it is developable, it is not in trust. And for those of you who do not understand that, we have several trust properties. So it is at the board's purview to decide what to do with those properties. Real estate has gone up since 2015, Josh. And so we considered this in 15 and 16, but the value wasn't there. The value is there now. So just writing an RFP or proposals and soliciting, why use our cash? Why not let a developer, let them use their cash and pay to put in a new road to the back of Gate 5 and to the members of Gate 28? That's our thought.
How about conservation and selling that land for conservation purposes versus development?
You certainly could. As Sudden Valley is platted, when I went through our entire plat map in the last 2 days, I went through every plat map we have. We have a substantial amount of real estate set aside for environmental conservation and set aside for water and for drainage. That area, consistent with the original plat, was identified as a development property. They wouldn't have done that if they felt that that was an encroachment on the total resource of space for humans within the valley. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that.
So the place exists and it can be used for multiple purposes. Nonetheless, never sell real estate. They don't make it anymore. You don't get to buy it back. But contracting for the board to contract with developers and say, here's the terms and conditions. Whatever the board decides for terms and conditions, you want to let them have access to your property, you want to let them have access to amenities. I mean, this is totally conceptual. You can set the terms and conditions of what will be on the deeds to the property. What's important is we have to give Gate 5 residents back the access to get out of Gate 5 in an emergency, a fire, and Mother Nature is not our friend at times. So giving them access to get out. And also, AJ, technically we could have a discussion about it, but it is a transport medium between two roads with a huge chasm in between. You want to call it something besides a bridge? I don't care what term you want to use, but without it, you don't drive over that gully. So, and the same is true on Western. I don't care what name we give it, but we want to give access and we don't want to use our cash. So what can we do? You leverage your assets. And guys, Area Y is an asset at the board's disposal. You can decide what you want to do, but why pay the money out of our cash to go solve the problem for the residents on Southern Court and all of the residents in Gate 5? And for those of you who have not driven the back road from Gate 5 out to Lake Whatcom Boulevard, it is a dangerous road. Sam Shahan, you worked for maintenance for several years. Sam, were you ever involved in any of the activities where we had to tow cars off of the cliffs on the back of Gate 5?
No, I wasn't part of anything of that sort. We did some things up there. I won't say what it was about deer.
Okay, but we don't want to talk about that, buddy. But are you aware that we had to tow cars that had gone way off the road and were in danger of going over those cliffs?
I never heard about any of those on any of the radio contacts when I was working there.
Well, unless you would like to say, folks, that I'm giving you a falsehood, the records exist that we had to tow cars that were real close to going over those cliffs. The road's not safe. Please drive the road anytime you want, or actually, please don't drive the road, walk the road. And you will see it is a dangerous road. We need a safer road. And so this is an opportunity. I think I overspoke Joshua, to your.
No, it's all right. Thank you.
All right, Mitch. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, very much for letting me speak.
All right, thanks, Mitch. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees at this time. And Kim, I did see your hand raised there. Did you want to add a comment or?
I just wanted to request that in property owner comments, people limit their time because we have a long meeting tonight. And out of consideration for the board, we have long meetings. And we also have the second round of property owner comments. So I just wanted to ask that of our attendees.
Well, Kim, I did ask him a question, so.
Yeah, that goes for you too.
Yeah, I'll take the blame here. Onward.
All right, Leslie's got her hand raised here, everybody. I'll go ahead and bring Leslie on over. And Leslie, I've added you to the meeting. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Good evening. I have a question tonight, actually, for either AJ or for Josh. And this goes back to December 17th of 2020. That's when there was a resolution to establish the Audit Committee. And this Audit Committee, the purpose is described as the Audit Committee is to assist the board in fulfilling its oversight and fiscal responsibilities. And they were given the authority to check into any and all financial documents of the association. It didn't matter when, going back, going forward, whatever. They also were supposed to present a confidential report to the board with the findings and the recommendations at the conclusion of their work. I also note that their charter did expire at the last AGM. And I'm wondering, in that report, did you find any serious discrepancies or irregularities that the members need to know about?
Well, it's a confidential report, Leslie, so I'm not going to talk about it.
No, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to ask about the specifics of it, but just were there irregularities at all?
Again, I answered your question, so thank you for your question.
Okay, so there may have been, and I'm assuming you have, you are following up on that. You do have our attorney looking into it so that we can just make sure that our books are clean. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Leslie. I'll go ahead and return you to the attendees this time. And Susan has her hand raised. I'll go ahead and bring Susan on over here. You've been added to the meeting. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Hi, excuse me. I have a request. In the flood report detail, many meetings ago, there was a small line about the possibility of closing one end of Highcliff Lane. And Highcliff is actually really well traveled both directions with a lot of deliveries. And if there's to be something done about closing Highcliff, please notify the residents on that road so that we can tell you what our concerns are. And that's all I have to say.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Susan.
Appreciate that, Susan. And I've returned you to the attendees as well. 19 people with us tonight. Anybody else want to jump in for property owners' comments? Just use raise hand in Zoom. We can add you to the meeting here. Timey's got her hand raised.
Hey, I just wanted to mention something that now that we have Dan in place for a while and we have Rich helping, and obviously I can see by the reports that he's in there and getting lots done. One of the issues that we've been having that I've noticed, and I know a lot of other property owners have noticed, is requests for documents that are not getting We're just not getting our documents. So I was going to see if we could get Dan to commit to, let me see, and I wrote this down so I could get it right. We tasked the general managers to keep record of all member requests for association records, and that this record includes the name of the requester, date received, records requested, and status of the request. And if we get updates on that, just so that we know that when people are asking for records, because, you know, with RCWs and we are required to be giving people the documents that they request. Obviously nothing confidential, but it'd be nice to know how many requests we're getting in and how many are getting fulfilled. But Dan, is that something that your office can take care of?
So I need to think about, I believe that we can. I just want to make sure that we're not doing anything that we're not supposed to do, but yeah.
Well, legally, we are supposed to be fulfilling those requests. People have the right to see the documents.
No, I understand that. Yeah, well, we will meet and are meeting our legal obligations.
Can we get a report? Just numbers, just even if, how many requests we get and how many are getting answered.
So the number of requests for documents.
And are people getting their requests fulfilled? I mean, it wouldn't take a lot of staff time to get that information. Just write it down.
I can get that.
And then can we get that report? Can that be part of?
Yeah. Yes, I understand. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're not going to identify who requested what, I hope.
No, all I'm going to do is I will say we got 7 requests and 7 were fulfilled. Now, what fulfilled means is going to depend upon the request. Sometimes the fulfillment is saying, I'm sorry, we can't respond to that request because of whatever the legal reasons are. Other times it'll be, yes, we can tell you that we have had security deal with the dog problem or whatever. So,
well, I'm thinking of requests for documents. Like, I know there was one request for a copy of the GL. Did that person ever get that copy?
So again, I'm not going to answer whether they got that or not. I'm going to say that there are specific issues around how you provide information that has identifying information about people that pay dues within the association. So I will say that has been dealt with appropriately.
So
we received it. It has been fulfilled in my understanding.
Kim, you've got a hand raised. Did you want to add something?
I just wanted to add that I think at some point there was talk about a software system to manage these types of requests. I think that would be helpful to look into so that community members can go online and make a request. It's documented through a software, and then you can do status reports of what was the outcome. And I think that would be a really good way to keep track of the requests that are coming in. So just Dan tossing that out there to you, that
Sure.
had been considered at some point.
So, and actually, that's something that we're looking into. We actually have software that appears to have some of that capability, but there's some questions about it. So we're looking into what is that capability? Is it something we can integrate into what we're doing currently? And so we're looking into that actually at the moment. But I think one of the things I need to clarify for viewers is that not every request is something that we can give you what you want. We will respond to every request, but if you're asking for information that contains certain things attached to it that are identifying people's income or a variety of other things, we can't provide that, so we won't.
right. Anybody else like to jump in for property owners' comments? Just use raise hand in Zoom.
Can I make an announcement? Because I think it may have saved some of this trouble. Next Wednesday, there will be a special board meeting addressing Southern Court, our bridges, and our roads for this year. So we're having a two-parter here tonight and then next Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
We were just doing a little prep.
All right.
Moving on.
Okay.
Not seeing any more hands, so we will move on. I do have a motion to move into closed session.
Motion to move into closed session at 7:36 p.m. That's for Deb. 7:36 p.m. We're going into closed session.
I second that. This is Kim, Deb.
All those in favor? Let's see over there.
Dan, Being recorded.
Okay, so.
Dang. I can get my, can you hear me? Oh, hello.
All right, do we have a motion to move back into open session?
Motion to move back into open session at 8:30 p.m.
Second,
All those in favor? All right, we have one action that we're taking as a result of closed session. I make a motion that the board approve the release of the attorney's memo regarding ADA compliance in Sudden Valley.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that passes. All right, moving on to GM report. Pass it over to Dan.
There we go. Just trying to get unmuted. So just wanted to give an update on some of the things that are going on. There's a lot happening right now. And I want to start with the hiring of our deputy GM, Rich Johnson, who is with us tonight. So he's been talking a couple times. So anyway, welcome, Rich. Before he joined us, he was recently retired from the Navy. He was in the Seabees and active in construction leadership and served them both at home and overseas. He's got broad experience in operations management and is already doing a great job of stepping up and helping with helping get things done. Our maintenance department, headed by Mike Brock, is busy ramping up. They've got some job descriptions out now for the maintenance staff that we're going to be looking to hire in the next few weeks. He's also been busy getting the maintenance vehicles and equipment serviced and ready for deployment for spring and summer work. And along with that, maintenance and repair of winter specific items like the snowplow blades and sanding add-ons to the trucks that have been taken off and are being fixed for next winter, which hopefully will be a less snowy winter than this winter was. Parks and Rec is busy on multiple fronts. They're preparing for the busy season ahead. They've got planning and maintenance and permitting for the upcoming pool opening is underway. They actually fixed a sauna, so that was great because I know that the saunas in the rec area have been closed for years, and so one of those they managed to get fixed. The other one's going to be a more major job, but hopefully that'll happen at some point down the line. Marina slip signups. I had said they were completed. They're not actually completed. They've extended signups through May 15th just to make sure we can get everybody in, because we did have some challenges with insufficient staff to get everything done, and also clarifying what some folks needed to do to get registered. But that's moving forward. And then kayak and canoe racks have been organized, so they're more useful for residents, and they're good to go. Turf care and golf are also busy with the transition from the off season to spring and summer season that's upcoming. They're working on the greens and the fairways and other areas that suffered from the winter that we went through. And they had a golf report. They had a great opening day. And then both Parks and Rec and Turf Care are in the middle of seasonal hiring as well. So that's just a flavor of what's going on. There's a lot more going on as well. I've been having some discussions with other government jurisdictions at the state, local, and federal level about different ways that we can partner, and I hope to bring some of that information forward in future meetings. But I think that things are coming around. It's really great to have Rich on board. Now you're on my screen, Rich, so I can see you again. But thanks again for your work, Rich, and I think that things are coming to shape. So appreciate working with all of you guys.
All right, move on to treasurer's report.
So for the treasurer's report tonight, we are going to bypass that. The Finance Committee met last night on April 27th at 6:30 p.m. The meeting was recorded, and in the interest of time for this evening, I'm going to refer the community to that YouTube video of last night's Finance Committee meeting, where our accounting manager, Joel Heverling, went through the February 2022 finances. And the meeting back over to you, AJ.
All right, moving on to ACC committee.
All right, thanks, AJ. Appreciate that. Yes, I'd like to get the board's approval to bring on 2 new committee members. We have Leslie McRoberts and Wayne Lee that we'd like to add to the ACC committee. And we need your ratification to do so.
So can I motion to break that up, because I feel like we need to take a vote or have a discussion on one of those people?
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. Who do you want to talk about? Which one? Pick one.
Well, I just didn't know if we needed like a second or anything, or just jump in. Well, first of all, Leslie McRoberts received almost 1,100 votes to recall her just 2 years ago. Leslie was treasurer back in 2002, and is one way or another, she has been part of this board at RA committee for the last 20 years. Leslie has been shown to act unilaterally in her position as board president, and she's disruptive to the community. So I will not be voting for Leslie to be on the ACC committee. The ACC committee currently is made up of a lot of people that we tolerate that have a political agenda. We are not going, or at least me personally, I'm not going to support someone that I do know to be disruptive, and that this community and the people that voted for me do not support. 1,100 people 2 years ago wanted her off of the board. That is a tremendous number. 61% of the people that cast a vote. So I'm also going to cast my vote and say I do not want her on the ACC committee. We do not need more disruption in this community. Plus, just to point out, she's one heartbeat away from sitting on this board again. And I think that's a real important thing to consider, because all it takes is for that ACC committee to vote to remove Keith as chair and put Leslie in it. And then Leslie is sitting back on this board, despite the fact that the community spoke loudly and clearly that they did not want her on this board.
Well, okay. I don't know really what to say here, because I've never had this happen before. So I don't know Leslie that well personally, or any of like this history. So I'm just looking for ACC members. And this is a non-voting. I don't know what the board thing had to do with it. It's a non-voting seat thing, so I'm not sure what that matters. So I'll just say that out there. But does anyone else have anything else to say about Leslie?
Nancy and Brian have their hands up.
Oh, okay. I didn't see who was first.
Hey, guys, I know the hands are flying, but you know, this is a member, so please be respectful.
You're muted. You're muted, Nancy.
Okay, I'm going back to what Sonia said. Over 1,000 people, nearly 1,100, voted to recall Leslie a bare 2 years ago. And that's a really outstanding return on an election. That's more people than voted in our last AGM. And I feel like the members have an opinion. And should Leslie really want to be on the ACC, there will be 8 open seats on it. Only one member carries forward on that committee, and he's sitting in the corner of your screen. Everybody else is out, and the seats are open for someone to apply for and get the votes and be on the ACC. And it's 6 months away, folks. So I believe in this situation, the members spoke, and the members need to decide if they've changed their mind. Because otherwise, it looks like a backdoor into the board. And I always go with let's let the membership make their choice. I mean, that's what is supposed to govern this community and what is supposed to decide the board, not this little group. And if I could vote, I would not vote for Leslie for that reason. I want to leave this for the members. Thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, for the reasons already stated, I vote no on Leslie as well. I feel like I need to go with my constituents here. The people that voted for me would not want Leslie McRoberts to sit on this position. I respect that she's a community member, but at the same time, this is a leadership role, and I feel it's important that we speak our minds and we promote trust in the community. And so, thanks.
All right. So what was the gentleman's name? Wayne. You're muted.
It's Wayne Lee.
Wayne Lee.
Hit your space bar, Keith.
All right. Well, all those in favor of Wayne Lee being on the ACC committee? All right. All those in favor of Leslie McRoberts being on the ACC committee? All those against? All right. Leslie is not, and Wayne is.
Thank you, guys.
All
Thank you,
right,
Keith.
moving on to
Brian.
continuing business, we have the playgrounds ADA compliance. We met in closed session a little bit ago, talked about a legal memo that we have, and voted to release that. And we are looking at making several of the playgrounds that have been revamped over the last several years to be ADA compliant. And so the discussion at this point is to we have an initial report that we plan to release with the attorney's memo with a statement discussing kind of what's happening with those and the plan forward. So the discussion at this point is if we're going to ask Pacific Landscape Architecture to start putting some formal plans together that we will be able to put out to bid to be able to bring those things into compliance. And so that the board can make informed decisions on the costs related to those and maybe prioritize, if needed, those repairs. So I guess the motion at this point, I make a motion to have Pacific Landscape Architecture provide us plans and cost estimates associated with bringing our various playgrounds up to ADA compliance.
Second.
All right, do we have any discussion on that?
I'd like to mention something if possible. I think it's fabulous that we're considering bringing these playgrounds into ADA compliance. What a wonderful thing that is, right? And it's sad that it wasn't done previously when a lot of these playgrounds were put in, but I'm glad we're doing it now.
Yeah, I think it's important to get a plan put together so that we can see what it's going to take to bring those up to compliance. We have a general report that shows that we're not in compliance, but now we have to look at impervious surfaces and stormwater treatment and various things like that.
Question in the chat about being this a sole source award, which is the issue I raised. So I think we need to clarify.
So this is a board meeting, not a community member comment period, just to be clear. And, in most board meetings, I'm just going to say this, that chat is shut off during the period of time when the board is discussing. So that needs to stop.
Tiny.
I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that we don't have to have everything up to ADA compliance right away. This is something that we're working on over time. And I do agree with Kim that, we need to look at more than one bid. This isn't really a bid. It's just what we have here is just some recommendations, but we have to make sure that we really research this, know what we have to get done and what kind of timeline we have to look at, because we don't want to just go ahead and just spend the money right away, because we have to be careful with our funds. And we're not, and everything I've talked to Whatcom County about is not, they're not telling me that it has to be done immediately. They just need to see some progress.
We can ask Tyler to have PLA provide him a cost estimate to do this work. If it falls within our purchasing policies, then it can move forward. If it doesn't, then we can get more bids.
Shouldn't we get more bids anyway? Doesn't cost anything to get a bid.
Yeah, it does. Cost time and effort.
Yeah, we paid this company to do this report. So what we're talking about is, do we do the design?
We have policies in place that allow the staff to execute a contract under certain dollar amounts for this reason.
I thought we were
If
asking.
you think that threshold is too high or whatever, that we can discuss those policies. Those are there for document review at this point to work on. So, but I believe the threshold is $10,000 and out of the operations budget. If it's coming out of capital and the board has to approve it.
So if you want to amend the motion for us to now bid on a company that just did this report, rather the motion was for us to allow them to come back with a design for each of the playgrounds. And then at that point, that would be the design that we would then put it out to bid for. That's what would go out to bid. But if you're saying now that's designer that we've already paid to do this initial work, if you wanted to start over with somebody else, amend the motion for us to do that.
No, they can go ahead with that. I just want to make sure that we realize that we don't have to get all this done right away.
Nancy, then Kim.
Yeah, the problem with getting another person to do the design now is you can't give them that PLA report. I would bet that report has a clause in it for Sudden Valley only. They're not going to write that report and then allow you to give it to their competitors. I'd be really surprised if that was allowed or even ethical.
My point was just to clarify, which Sonia did, that this is for the design and that
Okay.
that this company isn't being selected to do the work. I just wanted that clarified.
Oh,
I think that that was confusing to people. And so we've already paid them and we're just continuing with them to do the design, which then goes out to bid. So I wanted that clarified. They're
thank
not being
you.
selected. It's not a sole source contract.
Thanks, Kim.
I think we can ask Tyler. I mean, obviously they have to get us a cost estimate and stuff up front, so we can get that information and send that to the board before anything moves forward on actually doing any work. If that's a substantial sum of money, then, then it probably, we can bring it back before the board. Dan?
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of reemphasize something you were saying, AJ, which is that these contracts, they aren't, if they're under a certain threshold, it's common practice to not necessarily go out to an RFP if you identify someone that can do the work within a certain cost estimate. So I don't want to say, so I'm just responding because Kim said, well, once they do this, then we'll go out to bid. But we may not go out to bid. It depends on what the situation is. If the cost is low enough, we may just go with the folks that did the design because they're already familiar with the whole thing. And for example, in Bellingham, when I was there, I don't know what it is now, but when I was there, it was up to $25,000 projects because we did an analysis and the analysis was it was less expensive to go forward with projects under those costs through an expedited process than to go through an RFP process. So I just want people to understand that an RFP process does not always mean a more financially effective process. So, I think, between the board and the management, we'll make sure that we do something that makes sense. You guys provide oversight to whatever we do that makes sense for the community in terms of the product and in terms of the cost.
Yeah, my job, it's 10, we can execute contracts through the public works director up to 10 grand. And we don't have to go get bids. We just select a company that we believe is qualified and skilled and has the time capacity to do such. Because at that point, you're spending a significant amount of time and resources just for a smaller contract. Sonia?
Yeah, I was just going to expand on that same thing because by doing this design work, first of all, they'll be able to identify, where we might be able to get the stormwater exemption or where we are going to have permits. They've already been in discussion with the playground equipment company that we purchased, that the association purchased a lot of that equipment from, who that company also has ADA compliance designers, that work with them. So one of the things that they'll do is they'll come in with those designs and it'll help us. They're identifying other sources like of ways to save us money, what falls within that 20% parameter. What are the things that what's the minimum ADA requirement? And they'll help us prioritize each of these playgrounds as well. So there'll be a lot of components to look at with that once they bring it, but it goes to what AJ and Dan were kind of speaking to is there may be a couple of, some of this work may be our own staff may be able to do it once we've identified what it is. It may be two different companies need to handle different aspects of it. We just don't really know until we get that design, right? Hope that helps.
So I guess, I can amend the motion to have Tyler provide a cost estimate from the board from PLA on what it'll take to do the design phase. if that satisfies everybody. That way we see that and we know where we stand on our purchasing policies.
So we're meeting next week. He could probably bring it. We could have it the next board meeting.
Yeah. So I'll amend the motion to have P&W provide a cost estimate from PLA for design work related to following up on their ADA compliance report.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? All right, moving on then.
That was unanimous, right?
Yeah.
Okay. AJ, I'm sorry. We just need to make sure that that's said, or someone needs to take notes for the minutes, since you can't see everyone sometimes.
Okay. All right, moving on to third-party administrator for the transfer fee. Pass it over to Joel, I believe.
Yeah, I'll cover this thing. Actually, yeah, before I do, I'll just make a quick statement in terms of, I was going to do this if we had time with financial statements, even though I know we were planning on skipping over those, but like a comment was made by a property owner in the very beginning during the property owner comment section about the internal audit committee and kind of the implications that, oh, there could be some accounting irregularities that we're looking into. And I just want to clear up that there are no accounting irregularities that anyone is looking into. If there were, the auditors would have told you. So, meaning we have independent auditors who audited us, Larson Gross, independent auditing CPAs. Our audit report is on the website for anyone to see. And they have issued us, in terms of auditing our financial statements, financial records, an unqualified opinion. That's the best opinion you can get. That means totally clean. And so just wanted to clear that misunderstanding up, if there was one out there. So now in terms of moving on to the property transfer fees. So now just kind of some quick background on this. This was something, the reason why the board is doing this is under direct advice of the attorney in terms of discontinuing this property transfer fee. There was, and also issuing a refund on this. I don't know if did anyone else on the board want to add anything to that part of it in terms of the legal end of it?
So the attorney's memo is in the agenda, and we'll repost it, I think, to the website and probably put it back into the views. But as you said, it was under the advice of legal counsel that we not only discontinue the transfer fee of the 1.5 of 1% of the sales price of any property within Sudden Valley, but that we refund the monies collected. And so that brings us to tonight, which is dealing with the how are we refunding that money?
Amy's hands up.
Well, I wasn't on the board when you voted for this, so this really is a big concern for me. And as a matter of fact, we bought a house with our daughter last year, so I would stand to get some of this money back. But I'm looking at when I read the attorney's letter, I see that he says that perhaps we should discontinue it, the transfer fee. But I'm also seeing him saying all of the issues that we could have with the return of the transfer fee. And then, of course, right after the board voted to do that, to return that, we had a 100-year flood. And we have a lot of expenses that we didn't expect to have. And also, I do believe this money was targeted for some big projects. So I'm wondering, can we revisit this in light of the changes that have happened and in light of the situation now, and put an ad hoc committee together, revisit this and decide whether this is a good thing to do, or does Sudden Valley need that money for roads, for repairs. There's so many things we could use that money for. And he did say there's only 2 to 3 years where people could actually ask for or have an issue with this. Some of that's longer than that. I mean, people have signed and said that they were fine with this. Some people that paid that fee are not even in Sudden Valley, I'm sure, anymore. Can we get a hold of everybody? I really think we need to get a committee together and revisit this.
Sonia, then Sam.
Well, I think this is inappropriate. The board already voted for this. We've spent several months, an entire quarter putting this together, gathering these bids. We acted under the advice of the attorney. The attorney met in closed session with the previous board twice to discuss this. So you might want to say that it didn't say that, but here's what the attorney's opinion said. And I'm gonna have to paraphrase it because I don't have it in front of me, but somebody else probably does, and I can't read without magnifying all that stuff. But it's basically, it says that because it was not put before, our bylaws do not allow this type of transfer fee because it was not put before the members for a vote. We're not able to collect it. We are at risk. We cannot collect that money. We were advised to stop collecting it and refund it because it was collected inappropriately. That's what the attorney said. The opinion is very, very clear. It says that. It says, stop collecting it, return it.
It said the statutory exemption at SPCA is clear. It says whether it says any court cases on appeal would be uncertain whether they would hold up.
It says, given that prior to enacting the additional transfer fee of 0.5% of the sales price of lots and homes, no bylaw amendment was passed by a vote of the membership to allow the additional transfer fee. We counseled, this is a memo from our attorney, we counseled that the conservative approach to avoiding potential litigation with an uncertain outcome would be to suspend that portion of the transfer fee, which exceeds $125, and to implement a program to refund the transfer fee payments previously received in excess of this amount. Our attorney strongly counseled us. He advised us to stop collecting that fee and to return the inappropriately collected amount because our bylaws prohibit it.
That's not what the letter says.
Before, that is, I just read it word for word.
Okay, so I want to add to the conversation. So my understanding of it is that the one that we were able to collect money that allowed us to cover our administrative costs. And the 125 was adequate to cover the administrative cost. And then later, another 0.25% of the fee of the sale of the house was tacked on, and that part was not approved. Also, the money that was collected for was money that this community didn't vote on the things that was to be used for that money. It was a revitalization to fix up the barn and make Sudden Valley a destination community. And the community, I was on long range planning and we voted, or we did a survey, and the community spoke loud and clear that that's not what they wanted for this community. And so we voted on this to do the right thing.
Sam?
We hashed this out quite a while ago. Can we move forward and explain who's the best call and why? Or, have some discussion about that and move on. Thank you.
All right, Joel, do you want to maybe go over quick the companies that you got and I think you had some updated stuff that you sent to the board. So could you maybe outline that in case people didn't get a chance to read it?
Yeah, so basically we have 4 proposals, and yeah, just a quick little in a fast nutshell background. So going back and taking a look at how many people paid this transfer fee since the inception of it in 2016, it's approximately right around 1,800 people that paid it. So at that point, we're dealing with such a large volume of it, and part of the component of this also is that people will have to apply for the fee, which means they'll have to apply, and we're paying the fee back to whoever paid it. So like there could be situations where you have, say, like a buyer who bought a house, but then it was negotiated in the sale that the seller would go ahead and pick up that fee. So basically it's when that would be a situation where the seller themselves would actually be the ones to get that fee back. Of course, they'd have to show this through a closing statement. So this is kind of setting up a situation to where it's definitely now better to go with a company who specifically specializes in this sort of thing. So all 4 of these companies specialize in, like legal settlements, refunds, rebate type programs. They make their living doing this sort of stuff. And so that's who we've got these bids from. So we have these 4 companies. One is Epic Proposal, another one is RG2, third one J&D, and a 4th one PNN. And so basically, like in terms of just, what the companies would provide would be, like as we talk to them about building these bids. So just they would all roughly provide, basically they'll set up a website. So they will go ahead and set up a website for the community. We would, the community members can go directly to that website, submit their information straight through them on a website portal. They would have multiple payment options, whether they wanted a check sent back to them or an ACH. Some of these companies would even go as far as to pay it out in an Amazon card if someone actually really wanted that, or through PayPal, or so they'll have like, or prepaid Visa cards. So there will be multiple payment options. There will be like virtual kind of call center type information to where like people can call in to get like further information or to check up on the status of their bid. Now, some of these people would actually even offer, they would all do this if you want them to, like live call center type support as well. And they would do all the mailing. They'll mail out the all the postcards and all the information to people, like informing them of the rebate program and steps that they would need to take. Some of this could be short circuited by them just going through like to the website itself, actually. They'll follow up with people. Of course, we'll provide them the information of who paid it or what property owner paid it and how much, so they can marry up that information with the information the property owners give them as well. So it'll be, a very streamlined process. Like I said, this is what these companies do for a living. Most of these companies, I think, if not all of them, basically said, you give us the green light, we could possibly have this thing up and running in 30 days to go live with everything. So basically what you have in front of you are the 4 proposals. Might as well just go right down the line. You have Epic Proposal. This is one of the ones who gave us an updated bid even as of this afternoon, actually. So it came through this afternoon. So they wanted it to be, as competitive as possible. It's an international company. They do class actions, legal settlements, electronic discovery, consumer bankruptcy, data services. It's 9-month case duration. They could do payments through PayPal, Amazon, Visa cards, basically whatever. And so their bid is approximately $42,117. Now they do have like a tack-on service to where, like, if you wanted to say like, kind of like, yeah, give us the full boat and give us the whole call center support service, like live type call center service, not just virtual kind of messaging and calling in. That could, so you could tack on like another approximately 8,000 for that, which would bump them up to about 50,000, which puts them in the ballpark of pretty much all the others. RG2 proposal is 47,179. RG2 actually and PNW both have also kind of a limited element to it with live calling, as well as like a virtual, what they call a virtual call center as well.
Joel, what's this company that you're just saying that came in late today? What's the name of it?
Epic proposal. So meaning it's not that they showed up late, they actually sent us an updated bid today, like an updated bid
Oh,
where they
Epic.
were,
Okay. Oh, we already had them. Okay, thank you.
right, yes. So they gave us an updated bid, basically trimming some of their costs here and there to try to give us a really good competitive proposal. J&D is around 53,400, just rounding at 53,399. J&D is the one who also gave us an updated proposal today. Now, they were the proposals that I sent to you guys that came in on the lowest end. It was 27,000 or something like that. So then
It was 25,575.
25,575, yeah. So then I reached out to them just to make sure, like, hey, is this really apples to apples with the other bids? Like, here are the number of the number of people you'd have to respond to and stuff. It looked like there's possibly like a little clerical error when they were building the bids, like a factor that could have affected the price. And when they corrected that, then it pulled it up to about 53,399 exactly.
Oh.
And PNN, the PNN company is also 59,770. That's the second one that already has some call center, like live call center support built into their bid, as well as what they call the virtual call center support into the bids also. They're all, like I said, they all specialize in this stuff. I'm sure all of them could probably do a very good job, no matter which one you went with. I know like a couple of these companies, especially like Epic Proposal and J&D, like those two I personally dealt with the most, meaning in terms of reaching out to them and, like, hey, can you give me further information on this or what? And I know working with these two, they've been, like really incredibly responsive. Like they respond very quickly. Epic Proposal is they probably have one of the closest offices in Beaverton, Oregon, but they're an international firm. Like J&D also, I believe, has an office in Seattle, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, New York. So all of these firms will service basically anywhere in the country. So it basically comes down to an issue of price and customer reviews. I know that Sonia has looked into these firms as well in terms of like what people are saying about them from a customer standpoint. So that can play another factor into it as well.
Kim and then Nancy.
So I did look for customer reviews for all of them, and I wasn't seeing a lot of good things with any of them. It looked like Epic had 5 reviews on the Better Business Bureau, and all of them were one. The average was 1 out of 5. RG2 had 11 Google reviews, and their rating was 2 out of 5. And J&D had 3 reviews, and the average was a 1 out of 5. And then PNN Proposal had only 1 review on topratedlocal.com, and it was a 5-star review, but it was only 1. So I wasn't seeing a lot of love for any of these companies in their online reviews. And when reading some of the customer reviews, the biggest complaint that I saw with all of them was the poor communication. So I want to caution us that whomever we choose, that is not a complaint of theirs, because we don't need any further poor communication added to our plate.
Nancy.
Yeah, I have a question. Is that Epic really 15,000 to add the call center? Because it's like 42,117 and then parentheses 57,843.
Yeah, actually the 57,843, that was actually a part of their first bid. So meaning like if I just gave them, because they had some optional services. So if I just said, if you had all the optional services, it would go to 57,843. Now, what I did for Epic, this should probably be updated in terms of, I took their 42,117 bid and then just put in their optional services from the first bid, which was 7,630, which then kind of bumps them up to 49,747. So I guess that number, ignore it. meaning that is coming. So basically, it's kind of giving you a range from what it was on the first bid if they didn't start trimming some other costs out of it.
So the call center is what, 7,000?
Yeah, like if you tacked on basically, I guess you could call like a full meal deal in a sense of their call center, then it could, maybe we could look at 7,630 bumping it up, but that was, I took that from their first bid before they started trimming some things. So that would probably be a worst case scenario.
So you think 49 is probably
Yes.
more a competitive bid with the other guys?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sonia?
Yeah, so just to address the research aspect of it. So there's a couple ways to research that. So I will say that the RG2 had a lot of consumer complaints and their lack of response. They had a disproportionate amount of consumer complaints compared to the others. That pestle weight or P&N, pestle weight and nettle balm or whatever they're called, they are very hard to, I mean, they do have some actions. You have to try to look their cases up to kind of see what they do. Now, as far as J&D Legal, J&D Legal is the company that is processing the Equifax claims, the big breach, data breach for Equifax. They're dealing with that, and they're also the big Blue Cross payout that's going on as well. So they're handling very large case. Two of the biggest cases that is going on. Sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied. But one other thing about them is J&D Legal Administration wins Best Class Action Claims Administrator of 2022 and is inducted into the National Law Journal Hall of Fame. So the National Law Journal has named them Best Class Action Claims Adjuster 3 out of the last 6 years. Epic has very similar, people in the business have very similar things to say about them as well. Epic's, like Joel said, is a large company. I would be okay with either Epic or J&D. But I just wanted to say that I would not go with the other two, but I would recommend either one of these, J&D or Epic. Personally, I kind of lean a little bit to J&D just because I'm a sucker for knowing the cases that they're dealing with. But Joel has also been talking with them and dealing with them. And so I think, Joel, I mean, who would you recommend?
I'd be happy with either one of them. A couple, maybe like one point is with Epic, like a part of this bid is the 9-month duration in terms of servicing things for up to 9 months. And I believe the J&D is a 6-month duration.
Oh.
Now, of course, like if you extended either one of those things, because I asked them that question, what if we wanted to push you out longer? That's not a big deal to tack on something like that. Maybe
I guess
I would,
for me, it makes sense to go with the low bid.
So that would be like Epic, but that Epic's new bid, the one that just came today. So Joel, so that's taking out the call center. How do you feel about that?
well, I mean, if you put the call center aspect back into it, like as a tack on, maybe they do that for another like 48 or 49,000. Like they still have call center stuff in here. It's just a virtual call center. It's the live call center part of it that's been removed.
So are they still the lowest if we did put the call center back in there?
Yes, they would be.
Okay.
And they'll actually use the call center?
mean the
No,
resident?
I'm sorry. I'm just referencing what Kim was talking about, communication.
I thought that RG2 was the lowest at 47K.
Epic's
Oh,
at
well,
40,
Yeah,
42.
yeah, I guess you're right, Kim. I guess I was now at that point under the assumption if you wanted to pare it down between Epic and J&D, which one of those two would be the lowest? Then it'd be Epic.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. They're the lowest. Period.
Well, Epic is only 42,117.
Yeah. So
That's
I mean,
the lowest
yeah, if you took
based
if
on
you're-
the email Joel sent today.
Yeah. I would say like RG2, if you were just looking at Epic and RG2, Epic is definitely the lowest because they did cut their costs here and there to make it as competitive as possible. And in terms of like the service between those two, it'd probably be fairly similar. I mean, but Epic does also have 9 months built into their duration. Whereas with RG2, like with these, we stipulate at least 120 days.
Do we think we need a call center? Seems excessive. Like live, I mean, we're like paying to train their staff up to like perform the call center duties.
Well, I guess, what we could do if you wanted to go with Epic is you could put into the motion to go with their 42,117, but then build in some pad into the UDR request in case we wanted to tack on the call center later on, but we wouldn't have to. I guess it just depends on how it's going.
Like if we started getting a lot of calls to
Yeah.
the office, then or will they let us do that? Like
Sure.
add
Oh,
it
yeah,
later?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, they certainly will.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Mm.
Sam?
Their first process is to identify the people and send letters, contact everyone.
Yeah, they'll send out all that information to people as well. But of course, at that point, I'm sure word will really get out, and yeah, we'll put like a link on the website too, where they can go to access their website. That'll be built for us.
And then at that point, they would also probably send out the forms to fill out. So actually, it would be handled, the bulk of it, by their first mailing and their requirement for paperwork. And so the call center is just is an add-on for the last final things, maybe. But it sounds like if that's the process, it sounds pretty straightforward. Yeah, they mail it out, fill out stuff, send in the paperwork they want, done deal.
Yeah, or submit the paperwork to them like through their portal online as well. Yeah, I was just meaning if you wanted to, like, you could build into the proposal. You could say like, UDR request not to exceed 50,000, but at first we'll go with 42,117. And then if you wanted to put on, if it came down to it, and call center support, meaning like live call center support, seems like something we really want, you could always tell them, tack it on. They'd be more than willing to do that.
I would prefer to come back with a change order if that's needed rather than just approving 50 grand.
Yeah, we could do that too.
And add it on after the fact if it's needed.
Yeah.
So can we motion to go with the lowest bid then, maybe? That's Epic, correct?
I'll just make here, I can do a motion.
Okay.
I move that the board of directors approve $42,117 from the UDR fund to execute a contract with Epic Proposal to handle third-party services related to the transfer fee refund program.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that passes.
So for the record, we have Timey abstained, it looked like. Is that correct? And then approval votes from the remaining. Sorry, I can't see everyone.
Yeah, so that's 10-1, right? 10 for, 1 abstain, correct? Or is it?
There's only 9 voting
Okay,
members.
really
Why
got-
is
we're
it
so
missing
two
8 for and 1
No, we're
abstain.
missing 2. We only have 7 voting members present.
Okay,
1 abstained, so 6 voted in favor.
okay, got it. 6 absent and 1 abstain. All right. Thank you.
You're doing awesome, Rich.
Hey, I'm trying to figure this out, man. I'm trying to get I'm trying to get some zero defect going on with this.
That's cool. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the Unilec contract. I'll pass it over. Looks like this is Rich's memo and Nancy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Rich wrote the memo, so I'm not sure how he wants to handle it.
So I'm just going to go from what I saw at the Finance Committee. So I recommend to the Board of Directors to approve the Unilec Corporation service contract extension as proposed.
The reason we are having the extension is for $467 some dollars and some odd cents over budget, because there was a high volume return postage permit in the current contract that was not mentioned, and we didn't pay in the previous 2 contracts. So this year, Unilec got wise to the fact that they hadn't been putting that into their contract, and they did. So when we worked out the 16,000 budget estimate, we didn't know there was an $800 permit fee lurking out there. So we missed it. It's that simple.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that the board of directors approve the Unilec Corporation service contract extension as proposed from the operations budget.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor? That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Moving on to the Cesco Pools contract, which I will pass it back to Rich, since this is his memo as well.
So there's 2 contracts, but I think if talking to you, what you were saying earlier, AJ, is that our limit is 10,000.
Rich, can you put your mouthpiece down?
I'm sorry. If you were saying before, I think the reason this is broken up, just so everybody understands, is that if our limit is 10,000 without board approval, then we can't combine these 2 because it goes over that 10,000.
That's not why. That's actually not why they're broken up.
Okay,
one is just a service contract for the regular weekly service, and one has to do with the opening and closing service. So they're 2 different actions. They're 2 different types of contract.
Okay, so
that's
then
just how they presented it.
I'll just go with the first one that I recommend to the Board of Directors that you approve the Cesco Solutions service contract that's proposed, which involves them doing the maintenance and providing services for the maintenance of the pool for the summer season.
But we need to do both of them, or?
Yeah, you have to do both. I mean, if you want to do both together, that's up to
Okay.
you, or if you want to do them separately, that's up to you guys.
Let's just do it together. So
Okay.
make a motion that the board of directors approve the Cesco Solutions 2022 service contract and the 2022 opening and closing agreement as proposed.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor? All right.
Unanimous.
Now we have the Linden Tribune contract.
Dan Pike.
Sorry, so that is, basically, this is just an extension of the contract that we've been having. There are a couple of minor changes in it, where they're changing. So it's essentially, we're just extending what they've done before, or what we've done with them before. So this is the 8th amendment. So this has been done 8 times before. And so what we're trying to do is extend this to April of 20, so 2 more years, April of 2024. And continuing basically as we've been doing it, except that they're going to be printing somewhat smaller runs. But when we looked, I talked over with Director Volt, and we've got an overage of printed copies already. So it's really not going to change things in terms of what people experience. It's just basically, I think they're trying to find a way to reduce their costs slightly in the time of cost increases, and it doesn't really impact us. So what I would recommend is that we go ahead and adopt or accept, approve this amendment, the 8th amendment to the agreement with the Linden Tribune.
So I'll move that the board of directors approve the Lincoln Publishing contract or company.
Lewis Publishing.
I'm sorry, it should be Lewis. Yeah.
I move that the board of directors approve the Lewis Publishing Company Incorporated service contract extension as proposed.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor? All right, that passes unanimously. And then we got minutes, 3:30 amended minutes.
Yeah, and the reason for this is that Linda Bradley at the end of the last meeting made a comment about our March 30th minutes and had asked if we had looked at them. Well, I had looked at them and the board had looked at them, but what got posted online was an earlier draft version, and it was missing the motions that should have gone with each of the capital requests. And so what this is just an amendment to those March 30th minutes that the board did approve, just so that there's no confusion. These are the minutes that include the motions that she had mentioned that she didn't see in there the last time. So just a motion to approve the amended minutes for March 30th, 2022 as submitted.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes unanimously. All right, we'll move to last round of proper comments.
Dan.
Oh, I just had a quick, I just wanted to say thanks to Linda, because she actually went through and detailed on the minutes where we need to make the corrections. We've been working, as you know, to get these in better shape. And I want to say, Rich, this is where Rich has been really helpful. So I think that we're close to presenting minutes in a better fashion going forward. But I just wanted to give a shout out, because sometimes people are helpful when they do things like what Linda did. So.
All right, well, looks like we'll roll into property owners' comments. And I do have a hand raised from Mitch. I'll go ahead and bring him on over. There you go, Mitch. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Well, thank you, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a nice long evening. I have 3 comments. I just was looking online. I see no policies online that outline, and mind you, I'm in favor of what you're doing, but I see no policies online for minimum contract award requirements saying 10,000, 20,000, whatever. Now, mind you, I'm a fan, AJ, of saying there's a de minimis level at which, look, why am I going to put out a project for a bid for $5,000 or $7,000? You're just going to anger and not get any values from contractors. but you have no policies online for that. I'd recommend that you go ahead and write that policy up. But I am definitely in favor of the diminished amount of money that you set aside, saying we're not going to bid for this amount under. Second comment, and thank you for that. I'm fully support you. Dan, I do not understand why you would want to talk to the Lake Whatcom Water District about Firewise. They have no impact on Firewise whatsoever. And the other is, as a general rule, I am disappointed. We're on opposite points of view on letting go of $1.425 million from your capital fund. So I will look for the Finance Committee and the Treasurer, Kimberly Harris, to tell the association, what is your plan to fund the capital projects that are sitting here that have not been funded in the last several years, and we are falling back behind, and how do you plan on funding those? My concern, and I think I speak for other people, that by removing this money, we're being set up to have to do special assessments in the future to generate money. And that concerns me. So those are my 3 comments, and I thank you.
Let's just get this.
I just want to respond since my name was used. Mitch, I don't know what I said, so maybe I misspoke in my comments. I was talking about making sure that what we did with Firewise was consistent with what was helpful from the eyes of the fire district. So I'm meeting with them, not to have them run it, but just to talk about.
Well, you mentioned the Lake Whatcom Water District, Dan, and they have no impact at all on.
Yeah, well, so I apologize. I misspoke because that's not who I'm talking with. So
I think he said South Lake Whatcom District.
Yeah.
We're good. We're good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much, AJ. I appreciate the opportunity to talk tonight.
Thanks, Mitch. I'll go ahead and move you back to the attendees at this point.
So just to reiterate, we are following the advice of our legal counsel on the transfer fee. I believe that's been explicitly stated before. So disappointing or not, that is, the board felt it appropriate to heed that advice from our counsel. And the contracting policy is on the website. It's called 2005.01 contract.
And AG, I'd like to remind our community members that the job of the board is to protect the interest of the homeowners association, and following our attorney's advice and voting on that is protecting that interest. So I understand that folks are disappointed and they may disagree with it, but ultimately at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do.
So can I respond to one thing, because I'm seeing stuff pop up in chat, and Joel actually could probably address this better, but that money was not obligated to cover anything. We didn't use the capital holding funds. They don't impact our budget at all. Additionally, there's rumor or talk that there's some mysterious bridge that exists out there that needs to be replaced. All of our bridges were inspected after the flood. We did repair, and next week we'll go into a little more detail on any of the bridges that needed it. But they had complete inspections, every bridge. And what we keep hearing is culverts being referred to as bridges, and fear mongering is just inappropriate. Honestly, there's nothing to indicate that there is going to need to be a special assessment simply because we're returning funds that were taken inappropriately. And I want to point out that the person that's disappointed is also the GM during the time that transfer fee was actually implemented. So of course he's disappointed, because it points right back to the fact that it was an inappropriate decision while he was in control of this association. So here we are today, and we're correcting that inappropriate decision based on the advice of legal counsel. Thank you.
I mean, I can't say in terms of like just strictly speaking for capital planning, obviously whether it was surf or roads, when we do the capital planning, like when you see on the last budget, like 5-year capital plan, or even the budget before that, a 10-year capital plan. Of course, what we begin with is the beginning fund balance, whether it's surf or whether it's roads, and then we factor in the dues that we expect to take in, interest income that we expect to take in as well. And then we start backing off from that, that current, whatever year we're looking at, the expenditures for that year, then that gives us the residual balance at the end of the year of the ending fund balance of what we're looking at. And I can tell you, like, with that process, we have not yet factored in the capital transfer fee into that. So that pot of money, that approximately $1 million it would have been last year, like that amount has never taken in, has been factored into those ending residual balances. At this point, it was always, I guess, kind of considered like just a standalone pot of money, but we have not yet factored that into capital planning. So it didn't serve as a role in capital planning last year or the year before that, and possibly even the year before that and the year before that as well.
So I do have a hand raised again from Mitch.
So Mitch has spoken for about 15 minutes at this meeting already, so I think we're going to pass, and you can come to the next meeting if you want to speak again.
I do have a hand raised from Linda at this point. I'll go ahead and bring Linda on over. All right, Linda, you're part of the meeting here. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can. Yep.
I'm sorry, I have a cold. I have three things I want to talk about. But the first one is with the ADA compliance on the playgrounds. Originally, you had said that they were going to be closed. Do they have to be closed until we come into compliance?
No, we just have to put a plan in place and show progress on that plan.
That's what you had said, but I'm saying earlier before that, it was like the playgrounds are closed, and that's why I just wanted that clarified, and no better place to get it. I have a couple of questions about the third-party vendor, and I guess what my question is, with the amount of money that we're going to return, that's for around 1,800 people. Does each one of those transactions, Joel, do you have a figure of how much money was involved in that transaction?
Oh yeah, for each one individually, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. And then I guess I'd like to know from the board, what if you feel that this 9-month is long enough, or if you feel that you need to extend it further. I guess because I wonder, because of Joel, because this is going to run over into a couple of years, and I wondered how our auditors handle that.
Oh yeah, well, I can tell you that now last year at the end of the 2020 audit, without getting off into the weeds too much, because
I know
some of this gets kind of boring for most people in terms of financial accounting wise, but they had this what's called the standard accounting standards codification 606, which is just bottom line, it actually forced us to take the basically this capital reserve transfer holding fund money and to put it on the balance sheet as a liability. Before there was kind of an equity, but now it's a liability. So the good thing is, since it's a liability anyways by the standard, it actually doesn't affect us. It'll just be when we pay out the money to people, then the liability amount the cash will go down, the liability amount will go down as well.
Okay. And I guess the last thing I have to ask of the board, and I think Joel can verify that I'm correct about that, some of this money has already been transferred out of that holding account. So what happens if you have more people apply and there's no more money in the pot?
Yeah, I can answer that.
The likelihood that everyone applies is pretty slim to none. So they actually have to physically show us proof before they get paid. Lots of people have moved out of Sun Valley, moved on, So like the likely, like all of the funds will not necessarily get refunded. Those people have to show proof of payment and go through the process, which will be limited to a certain period of time, basically, for them to do it.
Yeah, and that's why I was wondering about, and that's why I asked the question about, how do you feel that leaving this open for 9 months, which I understand is the company said that that's how long they would leave it open. If that seems long enough for you, for everybody to, get their money, get it refunded, it's a fairly simple process. People just need to get their closing papers.
Yeah, I
It
can,
says-
in terms of like, when I talk to these companies, of course, now what they said from their experience is when you start a program like this, the bulk of the refund requests will come in at the front end of it, and then they'll tail off, like pretty quickly, like going forward through it. So they felt that 9 months is a really good time period.
Okay, and when they send out the notices, they tell them when the deadline is, correct?
Oh, sure, yes. Yes, they'll inform them of everything that they'll need to know.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people, oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm guessing probably most residents, who apply for this probably won't even wait for that notice to come out. Like once the website's up and running, they'll just go straight to it at that point.
And that makes perfect sense. The
Yeah.
last thing I wanted to say is about this whole thing about information requests that was discussed. I have never received, and Josh, thank you for asking for me, a formal request one way or the other about the general ledger and where it was. Sonia replied that they would be looking into it, but I have never received a formal response from anyone in the association. And that's all I got to say for tonight.
All right, thank you, Linda.
All right, thanks, Linda. I'll go ahead and move you back to the attendees now. Have a good night. All right, any more property owners' comments tonight?
All right, let's call it.
Move to adjourn at 9:47 p.m.
Who's
Thursday,
second?
April 28th.
Who's second?
All in favor?